today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Controversial Olympian Imane Khelif is turning pro, but with which promoter? Imane Khelif has now announced that following her gold medal win in the Paris 2024 Olympics, she will make the change, moving from the amateur ranks and becoming a professional boxer. Unbeknownst to most, Imane Khelif already went pro. Upon being barred from competition in the amateur ranks by the IBA when they had the run of the place, Imane Khelif went pro and had at least one professional bout. The Algerian boxer was at the center of a misled controversy earlier this year when reports surrounding her gender suggested she was not born a female and that she was a transgender athlete. It was found that not only were those damaging rumors untrue, but that the only evidence for them came from an unproven claim made by a corrupt Russian board who seemingly sought to defame Khelif after she defeated a Russian prospect. Whoever wrote this article needs to get their facts in order. They're making it seem like Imane Khelif was only targeted for beating a Russian fighter when Lin Yuteng was targeted as well. Leave that part out, why don't you? That these concerns were raised by those in the amateur ranks, coaches, fighters. It's not like the IBA just took it upon themselves to target Imane Khelif or Lin Yuteng. These concerns were brought to them. The IBA's version of the story is that both Imane Khelif and Lin Yuteng failed chromosomal tests, which barred them from competing in the women's category based on what their definitions were. That's their version of it. Their definition is that the women's category is for those fighters born with XX chromosomes and not XY chromosomes. Neither Imane Khelif or Lin Yuteng produced medical documentation that disproves the accusation from the IBA. Then how is it these two fighters were able to compete in the Olympics? Well, it's because the IOC only requires the athlete's passport to compete in the games, not medical documentation or a chromosomal test. Just a passport. The story garnered mass media attention with the likes of famed Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling and Piers Morgan and Elon Musk weighing in on Khelif's gender eligibility. J.K. Rowling said, "Could any picture sum up our new men's rights movements better? The smirk of a male who knows he's protected by a misogynist sporting establishment, enjoying the distress of a woman he's just punched in the head, and whose life's ambition he has just shattered." So try and understand something. That the J.K. Rowling and a lot of other people, Imane Khelif is a man, and they're just being disingenuous about it. This controversy exists in the realm of identity politics and woke culture, redefining what it is to be a woman. I mean, that's the arena that this controversy existed and still exists in, which if it wasn't the case, they could have easily quelched this controversy by conducting a chromosomal test. To put all of this to bed, prove you've got XX chromosomes, because what people think is you've got XY chromosomes. The rumors began after Khelif's opponent, Angelina Carini, quit their bout only seconds in, suggesting she felt Khelif's punch and stating in tears that it was like nothing she'd ever felt and that wasn't fair. But this is not an isolated incident. This is not the first time that a fighter that shared the ring with Imane Khelif raised these concerns. There were fighters and amateur coaches leading up to this point that raised the same concerns that Angelina Carini raised. Outwardly, there are a lot of people that feel like they're being taken for a ride. Being taken for a ride by the IOC and by Imane Khelif. That an agenda is being force-fed to them, as if there's nothing odd about this situation, and there's nothing to see here, that Imane Khelif is the same as any other female athlete competing in the games, and yet the other female athletes were not at the center of a controversy because their gender was in question. So to pretend like there's nothing to see here, that's disingenuous and that's gaslighting. So after the games, it was revealed that Imane Khelif would be filing lawsuits against the likes of J.K. Rowling and many others for their part in spreading defamatory and baseless accusations against the boxer. Whoever wrote this article needs to fact-check what they write. It's not a baseless accusation if the IBA, who were running things at the time, barred not only Imane Khelif, but Lin Yuteng. It doesn't just boil down to perception. Tests were conducted, and based on those tests, the IBA made the decision to disqualify both these fighters. Now, if what you're saying is the IBA can't be trusted and their test results can't be trusted, then conduct a new test. They didn't. And leaving that to the imagination is what has caused this stir, this controversy, that if what the IBA is saying isn't true, prove it. Now, I knew that they wouldn't. that both Imane Khelif and Lin Yuting would be allowed to compete and complete these Olympic Games without producing a chromosomal test. And so, it has recently been revealed that Khelif has made the decision, following the Paris victory, to join the paid professional ranks. And here's the problem with that. The amateur system is one thing, and the paid ranks are another. The paid ranks rely heavily on people who want to see you fight.
Will pay to see you fight.
Understand that as big a proponent of women's boxing as I am, and I have been, it's not mainstream yet. Not everybody's on board.
Not everybody's a fan.
We're talking about in situations where there is no ambiguity, to where the spectators are wondering if what they're looking at is an actual woman. Because nobody wonders about a Sky Nicholson, what they might be wondering about an Imane Khelif. Nobody wonders about a Shernika Johnson.
That's what's pissing people off.
This attitude to where there's nothing abnormal and there's nothing to see here.
Yes, there is.
If you want to leave it to the imagination, you can, but people are going to interpret that as an omission of truth.
You're being vague on purpose. What are you hiding?
And so I wonder, who's gonna promote this fighter? Who's gonna light that powder keg that might piss a lot of people off?
Blow up in their face.
Because where you may have been able to force those amateurs to cooperate and compete against these fighters, in the pros,
it doesn't work like that.
You can't force the fighters in the pros to compete against these athletes, and you can't force us to watch it. You can't virtue signal this one. In the pros, it would require a lot more cooperation than what you saw in the amateurs.
Don't forget that women's boxing is already a tough sell to some people. It's even tougher if the people watching are wondering, is that a woman?
And that is what people are wondering. That is what is at the center of this controversy. Don't forget who the primary consumers of boxing are.
It's not these pseudo-activists online.
It's not these idealists. It's blue-collar guys.
Men.
The working class. This is who you'd have to try to market this fighter to. So I'm curious, which promoter is going to take this assignment on?
We'll see.
In men's lightweight news, a disgruntled fan that goes by the name Leonardus Maximus said Gervonta Davis will turn 30 in about 2 weeks, and the guy has the resume of a child. To which Gervonta Davis responded, "Now let's talk about how you finished school and all that for you to work for someone, and now they dictate when you wake up and when you go to sleep. LOL. I'll pick my life over your life any day, loser."
I don't think there's anything else I can say about Gervonta Davis's resume and how his career is managed that hasn't already been said.
What this back and forth exchange brings to light is, what will Gervonta Davis do when his boxing career is over? Because sooner or later it's going to end. And he has to be approaching it. That you brought up Lamont Roach from 130 up to 135, that opponent choice isn't going to sell any better than Frank Martin did.
Right?
It feels like he's running out of options. Safe ones, I should say. And when the safe options dry up, where is he gonna go? Who is he gonna fight?
Does he retire?
I think about Gervonta Davis as an athlete, and I notice that he doesn't have any major sponsorships, relationships with big brands to make him other money.
We know he hasn't made the money so far that his former mentor made, Floyd Mayweather. Gervonta Davis is nowhere near the draw that Mayweather was, and hasn't generated anywhere near as much.
Thus, there's not as much to retire on. We know he's not in the same bracket as Anthony Joshua or Canelo Alvarez, the money that they've made so far. That's why they're on the Forbes list, and he's not. That when he talks about his life as opposed to someone else,
he's not as enterprising as those fighters are. Those fighters have more going on than just their boxing.
They don't make all their money from just boxing. But when Gervonta Davis finally hangs them up, what will he make money from?
What will he do?
Because I don't get the sense that he's made so much from boxing that he is set for life. He's one of these young guys with expensive tastes.
Wastes his money in stereotypical fashion on stereotypical things.
He's bragging now because he feels he found a shortcut to the millions, that he wouldn't trade his life for someone else's, someone more studious.
Short-term gains don't make for long-term success. What are you doing with the millions you've made? What are you actually doing?
Besides burning through them, I've heard this guy talk and I don't think he's the brightest bulb. I think he's stupid.
Not because he's a boxer, but because he's stupid. Actually stupid.
Can barely form a coherent sentence. Public speaking is not his strong suit. To me, he appears to be a grown man who has the mind of a child and the reasoning skills of a child, that if and when he retires,
He ain't got the mind for business, like Mayweather, like Canelo.
so many other fighters that came before them, De La Hoya, Leonard, Foreman. Not every fighter, much like not every person, has the mind, the ingenue for business, sustainable income.
He's gonna go broke.
You see Broner? You see how Adrian Broner's doing these days? You don't think Gervonta Davis could end up like that? Don't be naive. People, very rich people, with more wealth than Gervonta Davis has amassed, have gone on to lose it all. And you think that he can't? You think that he won't?
You wait.
It's not hard to see where he's gonna end up after boxing.
And all right, well, fuck you. You a monkey to me right now. And fuck it. It is what it is. It's a fight game. And I don't mean that to, but like, that's when we're gonna go throw down. Like,
there's only one way to settle it. You guys need to get in the ring.
Exactly. And what did he say? He said outside the ring. And I don't play by those rules. Me, I don't. I'm just someone that everything I do, my business is in the ring. It's not outside the ring. Because truth be told, a lot of things can happen south, you know, and we don't need to bury people right now.
Yeah.
We need to inspire people right now.
Teofimo Lopez is still doing the rounds on the podcasts instead of fighting, still seemingly advocating for a Terence Crawford fight at a time when he's involved in a legal skirmish between himself and Top Rank.
Predictably, this is going over the heads of the Americans, some of the American boxing fans who actually believe this twerp.
A social reject who goes by the name Ray Bama seems to have bought into it.
What do you mean social reject?
Let me tell you something. It's all in the name. Social media. Social. You're attempting to socialize. So if the only way you feel comfortable doing that is by hiding behind Google stock images,
It can't be because of how much you pride yourself in your appearance.
you deliberately hide your appearance behind Google stock images as to not be ridiculed, because you know you will be.
All right.
Teofimo's choice of words, labeling Terence Crawford a monkey, has helped to endear him to social dredges and social rejects like Ray Bama, who know that if they ever talk to somebody like that in real time, in real life, they'd get their ass kicked.
Wouldn't be shit they could do about it. So because Teofimo's doing it openly in all the ways they wish they could,
And why is Teofimo doing it? I mean, why that choice of words? Why resort to this?
well, he's a racist. He's always been a racist, and the signs have always been there.
But if he's all of a sudden getting more comfortable saying this kind of stuff out in the open, it's because he saw Ryan do it first.
he's not original.
Do you remember when he tried to say that he's the one that started the trend of undisputed runs and undisputed champions, even though Terence Crawford and Alexander Usyk became undisputed before him?
What do you mean before him? He was never undisputed.
Well, I know that, but that is how unoriginal he is.
It's pathetic.
So do you think it's a coincidence that a couple of months ago on social media, out in the open, Ryan Garcia goes on a racist tirade?
And now Teofimo's running around calling people monkeys.
He's taking cues from Ryan because he's unoriginal and he's a cornball. They tried to market this kid like he's from Brooklyn, New York, when he's more from Florida than he is from Brooklyn.
Come on.
Do you think this twerp was standing around on Nostrand Avenue calling people monkeys? I don't think so.
He's a poser.
And a wannabe. But I digress. We've been all through that, where he got these ideas from and what his motivations are.
What they really are.
The story here is how the American boxing fan easily falls for the shenanigans from these fighters. How do you presume to have a fight with Terence Crawford when you're literally involved in a legal skirmish with Top Rank, who promotes you, who still has a contract with you where you say they don't?
They say they do.
Years ago, when Mikey Garcia found himself in this exact same situation, he was benched. He was inactive for something like 3 years.
Thus,
When Teofimo finds himself in a similar situation, what makes you think he's even at liberty to make a fight with somebody else?
he isn't. You just pretend like he is so you have an excuse to trash Terrence. Pretend that Terrence is ducking the guy who lost to George Kambosos.
Americans like narratives more than they like boxing. They like dysfunction,
Drama.
more than determination, more than work ethic. And so, perhaps the American boxing fan has always been this way. Dysfunctional, disruptive. The difference being that the American boxing fan of yesterday paid.
There was a time when this was the premier market, the preeminent market for boxing, but those days are gone.
Without that, what's the point in catering to these people?
There ain't one.
Say it all the time. If Terrence Crawford were from another country with the exact same resume and the exact same career accolades, if he were a British fighter or an Australian fighter,
They'd build him a church.
the exact same career accolades and accomplishments that so many Americans regularly tear down, because Terrence is not a reflection of who they are.
He's not one for bumping his gums, running his jibs.
Not the boisterous type, not overbearing, not one to mince too many words.
Like they do.
Terrence is mostly a no-nonsense character, unlike his critics who are all about the nonsense. They revel in it. The nonsense from an open racist, an open bigot like Ryan Garcia, or an alcoholic substance abuser who almost gets himself killed like Errol Spence Jr., a woman beater like a Gervonta Davis,
That's what they like. These are the kind of people they gravitate towards.
a bumbling idiot like a David Benavidez who lost his title not once but twice outside of the ring, dicking around.
Treating his nose and stuffing his face.
These fighters are a more adequate reflection of your average American boxing fan that responds more to dysfunction and drama. It's unfortunate that Terrence Crawford, his career might come and go, and he will have never really been appreciated by his home audience.
Inconvenient truth.
I question how long Teofimo's gonna play this game. He's looking for a loophole, a way out of his top-ranked contract, because he smells a loss around the corner. He knows a loss is coming.
Before that deal is up, he might lose another fight. That's why he doesn't want to fight. That's why he's sitting out what remains of this year.
But for how much longer can he do that? Play this game. Sure, he's got bills to pay, like everybody else. We know he's got a kid.
Though not much in terms of common sense. You was sprung by the first decent-looking stewardess that offered you a blowjob.
You think you're smart, but you're not.
And you're on borrowed time. Make it about Terrence as much as you like.
I see through you, and a lot of other people do too. Your shenanigans have blown up in your face before. In all likelihood, they'll blow up in your face again.
Because history has a tendency of repeating itself.